Welcome to Action Pack, where we look at some action films from the past few decades. We've had a lot of comic book movies for the past several years, and of course, we have more on the way. A lot of people will probably dream of being a superhero and fighting crime, but they have to realize it's not easy being a hero. If you don't believe me, then watch the film that explains the truth of how it could be. Kick Ass! Kick Ass. The film was directed, produced, and written by Matthew Vaughn and Jane Goldman. It's based upon the comic book series of the same name created by Mark Millar and John Romita Jr. It's about a teenager named Dave, played by Aaron Johnson, whose life is pretty dull, but he loves comic books so much that he decides to become a superhero and fight crime. The first attempt doesn't go so well, and he ends up getting intense damage on his body. Now metal plates are around him and he can't feel pain. That gives him an advantage in the next gang he fights with. It's there that he begins to don the name Kick Ass. Being a hit online, other people decide to join him, including two vigilantes known as Hit Girl, played by Chloe Grace Moretz, and Big Daddy, played by Nicolas Cage. Both their real goals is to take down a drug kingpin known as Frank D'Amico. For certain reasons I'll explain later. What I really like about this movie is its visual and fighting scenes that are really a marvel to look at, and the story is just nuts. One thing to note, again, is the characters. Dave, aka Kick-Ass, is a pretty interesting character, trying to be something more than he is now, and the character really develops over time. His friends are hilarious and give good scenes, but they're not fully developed until the sequel. The same can be said about Chris D'Amico, played by Christopher Mintz-Plasse. He's alright, but he does have his time to shine in the sequel as well. The villain, played by Mark Strong, is nothing all spectacular. For Big Daddy, come on, it's over-the-top Nicolas Cage at his best, and you will enjoy every moment he is on screen. Last but not least, there is Hit Girl. She is a great to watch every time she's on screen because she's a little girl who kills people and swear. Of course, this is a pretty controversial at the time. People were overacting to her character. When I heard the idea of a 10-year-old girl killing and swearing, I thought it was really wrong at the time. I will admit, having watched My Friends Tigger and Pooh, which Moretz starred in, I can understand. Now that I'm a little older, I think it's a bit silly now, and even Chloe Grace Moretz herself said that she is the opposite of her character in real life. Now, spoilers ahead, this pretty much explains much of the whole plot of the movie, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, I say check it out right now because I'm about to be explaining major spoilers in about a few seconds. The reason why Big Daddy wants to take the drug kingpin down was because he was framed by him and eventually ended up in jail, which made his wife commit suicide after giving birth to Chloe Grace Moretz's character Hit Girl. But of course, the one thing I do want to understand, in the original comic books, Big Daddy was actually crazy and actually kidnaps her daughter and lies that her mother was dead. I guess the screenwriters wanted him to be more sympathetic, but it's not one thing that's changed, there are tons of them. All of the characters in the comics are unlikable. I guess Matthew Vaughn wanted to make sure that the main characters are the opposite of what they are on screen, but that doesn't really take away from what we know about the movie. Eventually, Big Daddy and Kick-Ass gets captured, and yeah, of course, Hit Girl has to save them, and it ends up in a big epic climax that you have just gotta see for yourself. I don't even know how they could come up with an idea like this. This movie has everything hardcore action moviegoers like me like: intense fights, and explosions, swearing, comedy, and the best darn ending you will ever see. If you haven't seen it, then what on earth are you doing watching my review? It's worth owning for your collection. It has enough to make you want to say, shut up and kick ass!